I've been part I've been part of the Full Gospel Church for many years, listening to evangelists go on and on, talking about how they know God when all they do is quote scriptures. Why doesn't it work in your life? Because you're listening to these guys blather on about scriptural interpretation that don't know God's voice, haven't adhered to his voice or obey him in any way. So they talk about being moved by the Spirit. I don't know what that means. I've been involved in the Full Gospel Church until God delivered me from for 20 years, but I don't know what that means. I don't know who was moved by the Spirit of God. All I know is God spoke to people and they were moved or they obeyed. Very simple. And then the blessings came. I don't know for the life of me where this damnable doctrine of giving money to show forth your faith and God will bless you, like he's waiting to see who gives enough money to these cons, and then he's whipping out some change and sharing the wealth with all these people. To tell you the truth, I was hoodwinked for 20 years, and in my condition, yeah, I wouldn't mind a couple of dollars floating down from heaven like manna. I wouldn't mind having spiritual power over the devil. I wouldn't mind walking in power and being wealthy. But if these people, these evangelists, have not heard God, heard his voice, and are telling you what God said, guess what? It's not happening in your life and never will. You can give money another 10 years, 20 years, 2 years, 2 months, and it's never going to happen. Nowhere in the Bible has God entrusted a man to reveal his will to people. I don't know where they came from, but the exclusiveness of Jesus Christ was that he died on the cross alone. He was raised from the dead alone. God sent him, as you see throughout history, to men called the prophets, and they spoke his word to people. And it was a warning to come back to him, not through a prophet, not through a man, but through his son. I was sitting at the table, and I had gone through some very difficult times in my childhood in my family, with my father cheating on my mother for 17 years till she told him to get out. So I felt abandoned, very angry. And as fate would have it, and that's what we here call what it is without God, that God kept drawing me to himself. Slowly but surely, God drew me to himself. I was sitting at a table. I was 32 years old. And I don't remember if my father had passed. He passed very early. He passed at 63, I believe. And I was caught with all this sheer anger, that when you're angry, the scriptures say that God has not sent a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. When Satan can manipulate us through our anger or emotions, we can't think right. And when he moves us with that emotion, we can't serve God. So I was preoccupied by this anger. And I sat at the table, I was reading the scriptures, and God revealed to me, as I began to forgive my father, not have all that hatred. Because whenever I spoke to my dad, boy, the voice pitch went off the charts. I was filled with such anger and rage. When I was a young child, maybe 13, 14, he was walking out the door, and he said, "Come on, let's go down the boat." And he never wanted just to do what I wanted to do, right? I was always with him doing what he wanted to do. But we went down the boat, and that was it. We didn't have an ice cream together. We didn't talk together. We didn't walk together. We could have walked to the deli where there the sandwiches. We could have split a sandwich. He could have walked with me, filled me with his wisdom of his childhood. Whatever. We could have done a number of things, but no, we went to the boat where he worked on the boat. That was it. Then we went home as a 13, 14-year-old child. That's it. That's my memory. So one day I looked at him and I said, "I don't want to be like you," because I knew he was cheating on my mother. I said to him, "I don't want to be like you. I don't ever want to be like you. I don't want to be with you. I don't ever want to be with you." I fell short in telling him that I hated him, but the anger had built up in me so much to a crescendo. He wouldn't talk to me on the way to the boat or the way to the office. I mean, we used to go on the boat for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. A perfect time to say, "Hey, what's going on in your life?" 5 kids. I never remember him sitting there and talking to his children, being involved in our lives, a natural order of a parent. So, of course, that anger built up in me, and I never could understand why. But in that moment where God healed me and healed my broken heart, it says in St. Luke, it says that God sent his son to heal the brokenhearted, and boy, did I have a broken heart. And it affected me. When I was being discouraged with the Full Gospel Church of these con jobs called evangelists running around the country, boy, I was right in that crescendo where the revivals were happening. They were having satellite churches around, people giving money, but for some reason, what they promised as they were inspired by God never came about. They were inspired by God, like the Pharisees bringing the adulterous woman. And Jesus looked to them right through them, not their religion, not through their looks, their appearance. God looked straight at them and said, "You are your father, the devil, and the lusts of your father you'll do." And I was being discouraged because I didn't really know where else to go. If I was in a big denominational, that didn't work. Or this non-denominational where they're singing, jumping, shouting, that didn't work to change me. But then God stepped in. When I obeyed him and forgave my dad, it wasn't the forgiving of my father. It was obeying God. And every time we obey God, he opens up blessings, and he opened up a blessing where I go straight to him and I listen for his voice, and he's spoken to me. I'm not a lunatic. I'm not Joe Spiritual out of my mind nuts. I'm just telling you, God has worked in my life because he speaks to us, and he wants to speak to you. Don't follow these cons. It's not a coincidence that no matter how much money you give them, you're not blessed in return. It's not a coincidence. They don't have a message of God. Because if you did, you'd be swimming in money, but you're not. Go straight to him. He'll speak to you. He'll lead you. He'll guide you. Through his mouth, he's alive. We serve a God who's alive. That separates our faith, our religion from any other religion. Our God's alive. We don't follow a dead prophet. We don't follow interpretations and doctrines or traditions of men. We serve a living God that wants to talk to us. Be still, or think about those things that were strange in your life. That was God speaking to you.